Hi there, in this lesson we're going to look at adding and subtracting fractions, but ones with a common denominator. That means the bottom number is going to be the same. We'll look at ones with different denominators in a later lesson. Now this does make it much easier to add and subtract fractions, which you'll see hopefully in the coming minutes. So let's look at this one. We've got 1 over 7 plus 3 over 7. So I've got a wee picture representation of this. I've got 1/7 plus 3/7 here. You can see it, 1/7 of a circle, and then another 3. So if you add the pictures up if you like, you've got 4 of those things. So on this side of it, we've got 4/7, haven't we? 4/7. So what happened there? 1 add 3 makes 4. What you'll notice is the bottom number didn't change. And the reason the bottom number didn't change, the bottom number fraction basically tells you how big the fraction is, whether it's thirds or quarters. Now, we're adding sevenths together, so we've just got more of them. So remember, the bottom number in a fraction tells you how big it is. In this case, it's fifths. The top number tells you how many of them you've got, basically. So we've got 3/5 that are green there. Okay, let's look at a takeaway sum. Same idea. We've got 4/5, a wee picture here, and we're taking away 3 of them. That's what it would look like in terms of the numbers. So if you take away 3 from 4, you get 1, don't you? So I've only got 1/5 left. Again, 4 take away 3 makes 1, and the bottom number doesn't change because you've just got less of what you had. We've got less number of fifths than we had before. And that's pretty much it for adding and subtracting fractions with the same denominator. So what we'll do is we'll move on to mixed numbers. And I'm going to do some easier mixed numbers and then some harder ones on the next page. So the first one I'm going to look at is 1 1/5, and I'm going to add 1 1/5. Now the technique to do here is to collect up your whole numbers and then to collect up your fractions, kind of like what we did in the last page there with the fractions. So if you add 1 and 1, how many red bits have you got? You've got 2. And if you add a fifth and a fifth, you've got 2/5. And that's pretty much it. That's it done. Okay, let's look at the next one. So I've got 2 and 2/8, 2/8 of a circle, and I've got 4 and 3/8 of a circle. So if you're collecting things up, you're collecting up the 2 and the 4 to get 6, and the 2/8 and the 3/8, well, there's 5 of them, isn't there? So we've got 5/8. Right, let's look at some takeaways. So I've got 4 and 2/3, and I'm taking away 1 and 1/3. So as before, focus on the 1 and the 4, and then focus on the fractions. So if you're doing 4 take away 1, 4 circles take away 1 circle, you've got 3. And if you've got 2/3 and you're taking away 1/3, you've just got 1 left, haven't you? Okay, last one on this page, we've got 3 and 3/4, and we're taking away 1 and 3/4. So we're doing 3 take away 1, 3 red bits take away 1, so that's 2. We've got 3/4 take away 3/4, so that's just 0, so just leave it as 2. Right, onto the last screen here, a wee bit trickier. Now, what's tricky about this is the fact that when you add the fractions, you're going to get a number bigger than 1, or an answer bigger than 1. So let's have a look. So we've got 1 and 2/5, and we're adding 1 and 3/5. So if you start the same way as you did before, you add the whole numbers together. So we've got 1 plus 1, which is 2. You then have to move on to the fractions. So you've got 2/5 plus 3/5, and that creates 5/5. But we should know that if you take 5/5 of a circle, that creates a whole circle. So we've got 1, 2, 3 whole circles there basically. So the final answer is just 3 holes. Okay, next one, we've got 2 and 3/4 plus 1 and 2/4. So we've got 2 and 3/4, and I'm adding on 1 and 2/4. So again, do the whole numbers first, the circles. 1, 2, you've got 3 of them, haven't you? And then I've got 3/4 plus 2/4. Well, that's 5/4. But we should know that 4/4 make a whole. They would come together to make a whole circle. So if you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, how many holes have I got? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1/4 left over. And that's your answer. Now, if you've done the top-heavy fraction exercise where you turn a top-heavy fraction into a mixed number, you could say that 5/4 are 1 1/4. So it's 3 add 1 1/4, which will give you 4 1/4. Now let's try another one of those because they're quite tricky. So we've got 4 and 2/3, and we're adding on 1 2/3. So let's do the numbers first. We're doing 4 plus 1, which is 5. 2/3 plus 2/3. Well, there's 4 of them there, isn't there? And again, hopefully we know that 3/3 make up a whole. So 3 of these wee thirds would make up a whole circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 1/3. And that's your final answer. And again, if you focus on this and you've again done the top heavy fractions, this is 1 1/3. So it's 5 plus 1 1/3, which gives you 6 1/3. Okay, let's look at this last one. So we've got a quarter plus 2 quarters plus 3 quarters. So in terms of pictures, you get 1 plus 2 plus 3 quarters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 quarters, isn't it? So if we've got 6 quarters, again, we should know that 4 quarters make a whole. Okay, so if I take that one and those two and that's going to make one whole. So I've got one whole and 2 quarters left over. But just a wee note, try and always simplify this part if possible. Sometimes you can't, like 1/3, you're not going to be able to simplify that, and 1/4. But 2 quarters simplifies because they're both in the 2 times table. So that becomes 1 1/2 and you're finished.